Hi, I am Lauren, and I am so excited to talk about graphic arts right now. It's been about 3 weeks since the last time I got on the microphone to rap about what I have been doing. But before I get into this very short video that I created, want to point out some of the things that I'm using in the video because it goes really fast. I'm not interested in pausing and zooming in on the video, so I figured I would just do it here. So I have Inkscape open, but I pasted in a copy of the actual Inkscape interface just so we could take a closer look at it. So the tool that I use most often to move things around is going to be this pointer tool right here. And when you have this pointer tool selected, you will see pointer tool options. So when creating this image, because there's a bunch of little tiny bits and some of them are layered on top of each other, I use these a lot. So this will push a path down, all the way down. This will push it down one at a time and then, up, all the way up. And I also use the node selector, which is right underneath it. And when the node selector is selected, we've got different options here, different things that we can do. But this guy right here is my favorite one to click on. I don't really mess with any of these other things. I should probably learn about them. They might make my life easier because a lot of the times when I'm using the node tool, which you'll see in the video, I'm just kind of wiggling things around a little bit, and there might be more efficient ways of handling that. But most of what I do is kind of therapeutic for me, especially if I get to, kind of rage click a little bit here and there. So those are the two that I probably use most often, and they have the sub menus that matter the most. The path menu is where we can learn a lot about how to work with many paths in one small area that are overlapping, and some of them we might want to punch holes into, which this would actually be like a really good place to demonstrate a couple of the things that I do a lot to make shapes of things. So the important thing right here to note is that these aren't actually paths, so we'd have to say object to path, and we'll know it's a path if we can click on the node selector and we can see nodes on it. So if I click on this, I don't see nodes on it, I just see these little handles. But if I make this object to path, now I have nodes. So you'll see these shapes: union, difference, intersection, exclusion, division, cut path, etc. Uh, in this dialogue, and they're using these very tiny shapes to try to explain to you, but here's a bigger version of that. So if I want this, I do a lot of cutting out. So let's say I want to put just put a hole right in the middle of that rectangle. So I'd make this a little smaller and fit that in there. And I like to give the two pieces, because you can only work two pieces at a time. I like to give them different colors because it makes it easier to visualize what's going on. So because these two are just isolated in space, well, no, I don't want to do that. I'd have to do this just to rubber band these pieces, or I can select this and then hold down shift and select the one that's around it. So we see these two dotted lines. One's around the circle and one's around the rectangle. So now I know I have them both selected, and then Control Shift minus takes the circle shape away, but then also takes the circle shape away from wherever it's overlapping on the rectangle shape. So I do that not so much in this video, but yeah, a couple of times. And throughout, creating bitmaps, working with SVGs, yeah, I probably do it a lot. It's a really good trick to have in your bag. Another tool that I'm going to use a lot is the pen tool to just make basic shapes. And then once I have the basic shape, then I use the node selector to maybe round out some nodes, adjust some however I need to. I can change stroke style, make the stroke bigger or get rid of it completely. And I can change the opacity here. So if I want to be able to see the layer underneath for some reason, then this comes in handy, which I do quite a bit. So this is going to be the sped up version of me using a lot of the tools that I just showed. Another thing I do a lot is try to move one piece at a time to maybe see what's underneath the shape, and Control Z to just flip it back. So there we're adjusting nodes and smoothing them out with my favorite round them out tool. Just going through some work that I've already done because I don't want that to pile up and then have to go do all of this tedious manipulation at the end. And it's a good way to get reacquainted with the work that I hadn't touched in a few weeks. Just a reminder of where I had been, what I had touched, and it's I don't know, like touching different parts of your memory. Anyway, I went about this part a little differently than I had the other snakes that I had completed. I wanted to start with the inside of the mouth and save the green piece for last. The inside of the mouth is probably the most complicated part because there are several shades of colors and you want to decide, well, am I going to start with the darkest color and work my way up to the brightest color, or start with the brightest color and work my way to the darkest, because this is definitely like a tunnel shadow effect. So I chose light to dark more or less, and well, then back to light for the tooth detail. But for the real inside of the mouth, I thought that turned out pretty good considering the perspective. These little gill things need a little bit of embellishment, so they're like a pinkish kind of color. And then I'm using trying to use the same color for strokes, outlines. That is a stroke gone crazy. For some reason it was defaulting to like 30 millimeters on the stroke, so I had to keep changing that back. Yeah, that's what all the explosion is about. So any of the stroke around these little pieces, the color is going to match, or should match almost completely identically. Not so much with the red pieces, the red shading. It's going to be several different colors of red in here. I didn't give myself like a very limited palette. It's really just kind of taking samples from the original image and going from that, and then taking samples from parts of the image that I had created and continuing to build from that. So we've got two snakes more or less completed. Some of the details smoothed out here and there. Not all of the finer details like this, the dotted matrix detailing on some of the shadier parts. This is one of the pieces where I used the cutout method for the eye. I ended up doing this with like 3 pieces, I guess. One piece, one yellow piece, one brown piece, and then there's the third piece that I had to use to cut out what I didn't need. But ended up, the goal is to just have 2 pieces for the eye, right? You've got the yellow round piece, you can see that move around, and then the outline in the brown color. I don't want it to be straight black because the lady's hair is gonna be probably, it should be the darkest color in the whole image, so you want to have some depth in the color there. I'm not crazy about having the outline around the teeth, but it does help. I think it helps a little bit with just adding a little bit of definition to the overall picture. I might change my mind about it once I add some of the shading, but for right now I like the outline. It doesn't look great when the outline is jagged and lumpy. You know, if you're going to put the outline on it, it should be smoothed out. Otherwise, just leave it as, you know, shapes with no stroke on it. The rest of this is just pretty much the same thing. There's me rage clicking trying to get that layer all the way down to the bottom when I could have just sent it down completely to the bottom and then brought it up one level. I decided that I didn't want to pick up where I left off with these snakes. What did I keep? I don't know. Yeah, I kept some of it. I didn't want the copies. I wanted to make each one of the snakes individually rather than do the copy and paste method, which I had originally done. Like I don't really want to rush through this. Um, I mean, it looks kind of sloppy, but once the lady's face is in there, it's really gonna it's really gonna tie the whole thing together. I think it's gonna make the snakes look a lot better. When you just work on the snakes to begin with, and then, you know, you're checking on the picture and there's no lady back there, the snakes by themselves are just they're kind of sad and lonely looking. They're not very impressive. So basically, like saving the best for last with this lady's face and struggling through. It's not really struggling, but pressing myself through the snake parts. There's a lot of tiny little details compared to the lady's face, and most of it, yes, is in the mouth. Like how detailed do you want to get in there? The eye part is fun. I like that. There's the other cutout method, so I just did the whole eye shape first and then cut out the parts where I wanted the yellow to show through. And then the rest of it is pen tool outlining, adding some shade, some depth. Pretty close to the end there. About a minute left, I guess. Oh, I see what I did. Yeah, I was like, well, when you create a bunch of separate paths, a bunch of different separate shapes with the pen tool, it'll keep creating that shape with the same fill and the same stroke. So if you're going to try to attack a bunch of small pieces all at one time, you want to do the ones that are all the same color first. So instead of just working on one snake, I did all the teeth and all the lighter colored things across all of them, and then just saved the green part for last. That looks funky. There's something wrong with that guy's mouth. He's missing some mouth stuff. That looks kind of weird. Yeah, that's almost done. So obviously this is going to be like a 6-part mini series on one image that you know, at the end of the day, A isn't a big deal. It's not like the most inspired piece I've ever seen. I do love it, but B, I don't even know who it belongs to. And then C, it is probably the lowest thing on my priority list, which I don't know why that makes it maybe more fun for me to just space out on. But I've got the snakes on the right, the top head snakes. I still have to do the left snakes. And then I am going to I want to set myself a time limit. Like, once all the snakes are done, I want to see if I can finish that lady's face in 30 minutes or less, like a pizza delivery or whatever. I think I can do it because it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors, right? Not a lot of not a lot of fine detail other than the curly parts of the hair and the parts of the hair that gets kind of wrapped into some of the snakes. like it's in between some of them. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thanks for listening, and thanks for returning. If you've if you've seen the other two lady snake face videos and you've been waiting patiently for this one, I'm not sorry. I'm happy to be able to provide the video. Don't give up on me, and I won't give up on the snakes.